Hello, good day to everybody out there. Hope you're all well. It's been a bit of a while since I've done one of these videos, and this is going to be a video focused more on disability awareness. Not that things don't happen, but sometimes I just find it really important to highlight something or to share an experience that hopefully will give people a bit more insight and awareness on how to support, how to be helpful to people who have a visual impairment or are disabled. And this is basically about two experiences that I've had. One of them is more recent, but they're of a similar nature. So I thought, let me share them both in hopes that this can be useful to somebody out there. And the first one was based upon an experience at Gatwick Airport. Now, I'm somebody who asks for support when I go through an airport. And so, the airport as well as the airlines usually offer assistance. Just a little side note, you might not be aware of this, but the support that's offered on the airplane and airport, they can be completely separate. And the service can vary wildly. Anyway, I've had experiences on planes where I've had quite a bad service. I remember once being on a Virgin Airlines. I think it was maybe run by American Airlines, but I'm not entirely sure. But I do remember it was a Virgin flight. And it was pitch black on the flight. You know how they turn all the lights out, which is awful for someone with a visual impairment because then you can't see anything. And I remember asking for someone to show me where the little call button was if I needed help, which is very important to someone with a disability. And I'd asked the first time and they'd be like, it's there. And they're kind of pointing. The people were American. I think there's a bit of a different culture personally when it comes to customer service, I found. So that might have been part of this. But when I asked the second time they came around, because I thought they might be less rushed, they literally went, again? Like, you're asking again? And I was like, yeah, because maybe you've forgotten, but I'm visually impaired. I can't see. And I think I had to use the word partially blind, so they really got it. And there was a bit of a moment. Anyway, so we can get all different types of service. And I do appreciate that, some people might not find it is their responsibility to give that extra support to someone who's disabled, but we're also customers, and when it doesn't cost you anything, then I think that you really should be offering that little bit of extra support. And I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how I think you can support people with visual impairment. So I booked this service to the assistance, which comes as standard and free with the airport. Went through security. Firstly, the person was supposed to be helping me, but then I guess they were a little bit rushed, or people just tend to see someone like myself who doesn't have a stick and just think, she doesn't need that much support. We'll send a few more people through with him. Well, that was to my detriment on that day because we'd gone through security, and you have the security bins where they put all your belongings in. My belongings went through and basically due to the fact that my iPad case was a very similar colour to the airport bin, my iPad got left behind. And I remember the exact moment when this happened because the guy who was supposed to be helping me, he was really distracted by the other people he was waiting to come through who had been added on to my support. And because he was so distracted by that, he didn't do what 8 out of 10 of them do, double check that I haven't left anything. And so that meant I left my iPad, which was, thank God it was left there and I was able to track it once I'd got to the other destination. But what was really frustrating is that I was charged £25 to get that iPad back. And I have since written and petitioned to get that back. And yeah, that was, I think 2023, I think it was. And I still haven't had a response. I've tried 2 or 3 times and then I gave up because they didn't care. It was very obvious from the phone conversation, very obvious from the tone of the email. It was kind of like pay £25 to get your iPad back or lose it. And at the time, I just didn't have the energy to fight it. So I didn't. But I just want to say to you, be careful, number one, if you're visually impaired going through the airport. And to all the staff out there who work in the airport, what would it cost you to cast your eye into the bins and make sure that everything is with the person who's disabled or visually impaired? Because it may be that someone's in a wheelchair and they can't look up well to see into the bin. So what will it cost you just to make sure that everything's taken out? Again, I know the guy that I was with was distracted, but that's also not my problem, so to speak, particularly if you offer that support. If you don't offer it, you don't offer it, but if you do, then do it right or don't do it at all. So that was the first experience. My second experience was to do with a hotel. I was in a hotel this year, around about May, maybe June, And in essence, I went from one room to another. So I was in one room one night, and then the next day I was booked into another room. And the staff offered to help me go from one room to the other. Got into the other room, put my stuff down and everything. I'd say about an hour or so, maybe two later, I realized, oh my gosh, my swimming costume was left in the other room. To go into reception say, okay, they'll go and check. Swimming costume was not in the room. This scenario has been chased up until today, is the last communication I had, and this swimming costume has never ever shown up. Now, I do remember the basic look of the hotel staff that I saw in the lobby, or the hall, should I say, where my room was on the day of the said, missing swimming costume. And I've tried to share that information. Nothing has helped. They've just said, no, sorry, it's gone. Nothing we can do about it. After my suggestion that I got some of my money back from my room, because I paid with points and a little kind of payment, they then said, okay, yeah, we'll give you back that money, no points back, but we'll give you back the money that will, I guess, cover the cost of a swimming costume I unfortunately can't replace. But, that went a little way towards making me feel a bit appeased. I was, however, frustrated by some of the tone of the email. It's because how I saw it was, you offered to support me to go from one room to another, and my swimming costume was left. It didn't disappear into thin air. So what happened to it? And I don't see it as acceptable to just say, we don't know, it's gone. I doubly see it as frustrating when, as a visually impaired person, you have offered support to me and I've accepted that support, and your staff are not trained to be visually vigilant to check to make sure everything has been taken. Now, I'm going to say right now, I totally understand and appreciate that not everyone will be trained on that, or maybe they wouldn't even think of that. And I have since made sure that hotel is very aware that you can't offer that support to a visually impaired person without being visually vigilant, because they're disabilities that they can't see. So please make sure that when staff are helping, that they could take the extra time to say, let me just have a quick scan of the room or wherever you are, to make sure that you have got everything with you and that you've taken it. And then don't have this attitude after to say it's not our responsibility, because I think that's really unfair, particularly because we are at a disadvantage of being able to see to make sure everything's with us. This might be a very debatable subject for some people, and I appreciate that. That's your opinion. But I think it's the small things that we can do sometimes just to support, to help, to offer useful customer service. As I say, if you're going to offer customer service, offer it right. Don't offer customer services and say, oh yeah, we'll help you, but we won't help you where you really need it. Can you see how that doesn't make much sense? You don't say, oh, we'll offer you this support, but we won't offer the support that you need. And again, I appreciate all the little things that people do to support and help, but it doesn't cost anything to cast your eyes across the room and make sure that everything's been taken. Anyway, I know that it's not necessarily a standard one that people would even be aware of or know, but I'm hoping that now I've highlighted it, that maybe it will make people think. I'm hoping that hotels, hospitality staff, people who work in different industries maybe, can now give this a second thought and say, well, actually, maybe we could do something. Maybe we could train our staff to be a bit more visually vigilant. Because as I say, it doesn't cost much, and it is a literal disability. If there was someone who had a more prominent disability, you wouldn't say or do certain things. But I think sometimes with visual impairment, because it's not seen literally, it's not seen, it can be so flippantly, dismissed or not taken seriously at times. And I always find it my responsibility to make sure people are aware this is a way that you can support, this is a way that you can be more vigilant. So that's what I'm doing today, and I hope that has landed in the right ears. It's given some people food for thought, and just thought I'd share. Let me know your experiences. Have you had anything similar? Whether you have a visual impairment or a different disability, what things frustrate you? What things you as people would know that would be so simple and small that could really support you? I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, have a good day. Until next time.